Hello, everyone. Today, I want you to go through the journey of Microsoft Copilots and the alternatives for some of the Frugal use cases. So, one of the use case, let's start. I have a big email chain, and in the Copilot, of course, I can do a summary, and it gives me a summary. Okay, the main delivery item, 590 sensors on 20th August. I also want to talk about outstanding action items include confirming receipts of 10 replacement. Now, this is a great feature. Now, of course, this is one of the small use case of overall what Microsoft Copilot could do. But if I want to just roll out this feature in the entire enterprise, it's going to cost me a lot, right? So a Microsoft Copilot license, a 25K INR per year, right? Now, what are alternatives of it? So one of the alternatives is going to say a Power App, right? So I can build a Power Automate pipeline whenever a new email arrives, and I could do it for the first 5 emails, 10 emails, 20 emails, or I could do time based. Every morning I want to initialize the variable, I go through each of the variables, which is nothing but the body in loop, and then I could use an HTTP call to GPT. It could be my locally hosted GPT, for example, and then I could pass the response and send the summary over Teams channel or as an email in the early morning as a summary from your assistant. Now, once we introduce something like HTTP here, now it goes into the premium bucket, so it's going to cost me half the cost of overall Microsoft Copilot license. But it's not only for this one flow. Now I can build multiple Power Automate flows accordingly, right? But it's still going to charge me, say, a 12K, something around that range INR per year. Now, totally worth it because we could develop and deploy a lot of other Power Automate application. Then I come to Microsoft Graph 365 APIs. And what I do is I try to go through the entire approach of Microsoft 365 Graph API consumption. So, this is a Bedrock application. I'll show you the architecture soon. Once I log in into my application using Cognito, I can then connect safely through Azure into my Microsoft 365 Graph APIs. I could fetch the emails, and now I can start chatting with it. And the beauty of this chat is that now it's very personalized, which means the summary is completely personalized to what I want to do for this, right? So, for example, the first level of summary told me, yes, replacement shipment of 10 items. And then by September 1st, 2025, I need to do something. I asked it for details, and it tells me, okay, 590 out of 600 units will be delivered. We just saw that. QA docs are received and verified. Next action item is confirm the receipt and whatnot. And of course, transparency always in picture. I can always see the entire email across which this was summarized. And then what I can do is I can have a lot of other fun with it. I can say, okay, give it to me in a tabular format, and it'll give me a tabular format with date and urgency. I could also tell it something like, give me a professional response to this, focusing on urgency of keeping the deadlines, right? And so there are multiple other things that I could now. It's only the creativity stops you from what else you might want to do with such an integration. Microsoft Graph 365 API, by the way, is free, and of course it would have some limits, but the limits are very high. I think 1,000 emails per 10 minutes or 1 hour or something like that. We can look that up, but it's very very high, right? So for day-to-day regular employee work, this should be absolutely possible, right? So yeah, so you see it gave me a very nice professional summary. I could just copy it and reply on the top of the email. All right, now let's look at the concept. So let me just try to open in browser. There we go. So what we have to do is we have to use, so I've used from the JavaScript side node application built on top of my Cognito in AWS with Lambda functions, etc. So what it does essentially is that it starts from the front end application. It does the Cognito login, but it also does the Azure login for security purposes. And I also store the Azure token that I receive to be able to call the Microsoft Graph 365 APIs, right? From there, then after I have the auth providers, I go to my backend. From the backend, I would consume the email source. I would have an email fetcher functionality, which will then combine the system prompt plus the user prompt in the case of user is chatting, and then combine the all of the responses and give it the reply back to the end user. Of course, before I can go to the email, I would always have the permission check and token validation based on the MSAL login that I had initially done. Right. So overall, this flow is the most important part. Be very careful. There will be a lot of challenges for developers to handle the MSAL and email fetch, token burnouts and session timeout issues. You will have to build in a logic to see when is the user already authenticated, where do you want to reconnect. So these are some typically known issues. If you Google, you will get to know more about it. So overall, the flow is what we spoke about. Of course, you can always have a, zero shot prompt and combine the email body with it. Depending on the email size, you will have to decide whether you want to break it and run it in the loop. So I use GPT-4 with this email. It works for bigger email. I also went into Llama 4, so I don't have to do any looping or RAG per se. I just can pass the entire context to the application, and overall the tech stack is something like this, which we see it on the video. So for some of the frugal applications on top of Microsoft, we don't need to go all the way to a bill of material of 25K a year INR for Microsoft Copilot enterprise license, nor do we want to go to Power Automate, which is half the bill of material. We can go almost free if you have your LLMs, and this can also be a local LLM 3.2 deployed on your local servers, almost zero cost, and you can give email summary and the experiences around email communication as an assistant to your enterprise, almost for free, right? So hope this helps all of you. If there are any questions, please do reach out to me. Happy to collaborate. Thank you very much.